Matt Delvecchio here. We just heard a segment about aging in place and what needs to be done. However, there is also the option of transitioning into a retirement home. In fact, Quebec has more people per capita living in senior living communities than anywhere else in the country. Well, to tell us more, I have Rita Kataroyan on the line. She's the Vice President, Strategy, Innovation, and Marketing for le Groupe Maurice, a market leader in senior housing. Rita, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Good afternoon, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining me, Rita. Really do appreciate you taking time on Sunday. I know you're extremely busy, so I do appreciate your time and interested in your take on some of the senior living trends out there. And I would like to ask you, what are some of the main reasons why people are choosing to live in retirement homes?
Matt, just hearing you, the way you phrased your question makes me smile. Let me tell you why. Not that long ago, the question people would ask us would be, why do people resort to retirement homes? Or better yet, what are the reasons why people are being placed in retirement homes? Whereas you just asked me, why are people choosing to live in a retirement home? And I thank you for that because it truly is a choice. One of the premises of our business has always been to offer choices to seniors, just like any other segment of the population has. It was about 35 years ago, a handful of pioneers here in the province of Quebec, including, of course, our founder, Luc Maurice, had a vision. They had the audacity to start building residences that seniors would choose as a destination, where they'd be able to maintain their autonomy, find opportunities to socialize, remain active, and those are the reasons why people are choosing residences today. Alongside, of course, the more habitual logistical factors, having not to worry about the chores related to home ownership, safety, security, presence of qualified staff in the building, etc. Some of the nicest and most avant-garde residences in the country are in our province, and it's something to be proud of.
And I would agree, Rita, as I mentioned at the outset, it is something to be proud of, Quebec. Really, the province is leading the country. I'm very active right across the country, and I see how far we are ahead from a population perspective. And it's nice to see, and Groupe Maurice is obviously a big part of that, one of the pioneers in the industry. And I like the fact that you brought that up about choosing your choice as opposed to these words of being placed in facilities. And let's face it, the pandemic didn't help, right? I mean, there's a stigma, and I think there has been a change in the attitudes, and obviously the product that is out there is being accepted a lot more. Now, Rita, let's say, okay, I'm thinking about a retirement home. Could be proactively, could be for independent living or assisted living. What questions should be asked when visiting a retirement home?
The first one, I'd say, pretty simple, but quite important, is to fully understand everything that's included in the price of the monthly rent. It's gotten a little bit better now because the population is more aware of the industry's characteristics, but not that long ago, people would get a little surprised when they saw the monthly rent price. But that's because they just didn't know everything that was included in the price, right? So electricity, cable, Wi-Fi, appliances, daily activities, so on and so forth. Because once you really understand what's included, you realize that the delta, the difference with what you're paying currently is not as big. Second, I would say ask to visit common areas where you can be in the same room as other residents and staff members. There's a certain vibe, a feeling that you can only get when you see the people living there, which is often very indicative of the customer experience they're having on a daily basis. Which makes me think, by the way, who you ask your questions is as important as what you ask. So if you know someone who lives in the property or someone who knows that lives in the property, that's a pretty safe bet. Residents, their experience have always been our best ambassadors.
Nothing better than a resident talking to their friends about how good their stay is. Now, I would imagine there are a couple I love that you mentioned what's included in the rent. Sometimes I tend to ask what's not included, and both questions are very valid, but it's amazing how much is included. And The government, and this is part of the reason why more Quebecers are in senior living communities than the rest of the country, because we're one of the few provinces that offer a tax credit for senior living, don't they?
Right.
And can you just expand a little bit on that, on the tax credit for retirement
Absolutely.
homes?
There's actually a couple of kinds of tax credits, but it's very variable. Variables such as age, your personal income, health status will all determine what every individual is eligible to receive. Definitely worthwhile investigating, though, because the credits could represent hundreds of dollars on a monthly basis. It's to be discussed with the accountant. Many residences actually offer this service to their clients as well.
Yeah, that's very good. And kudos to the government recognizing, waiting lists for long-term care homes are extremely long right across the country, including here in Quebec. And they're recognizing
Correct.
that maybe we better support the private sector. And I think one of the things that I wanted to mention as well, Rita, is even though you don't have to go to any of the activities or do any of them, they're all there. But safety, you mentioned that is a key point. And I think in every apartment, there's these call buttons, emergency call buttons. If you're not feeling well, right? So is that standard practice throughout the industry?
It is actually. It's the reasons why people go to live in residences are multiple. We talked about it before, but one of the main reasons is that safety. It's just that peace of mind that if something were to happen, there's staff, there's people that are there with us.
Nice. It's very, very comforting to know peace of mind. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Del Vecchio here, and I'm talking about trends in the senior living industry with Rita Kataroyan. She's the Vice President, Strategy, Innovation and Marketing for Le Groupe Maurice. And just wrap it up here, Rita, and I mentioned at the outset that Le Groupe Maurice truly is a market leader and a pioneer in the senior living industry. And what factors make Le Groupe Maurice a market leader?
It's definitely factors in plural, like you said, because it's a bunch of stuff that make the difference, I think. First, of course, the quality of the product itself, where it's located, how well it's maintained, to stay relevant, to stay attractive. Second, I would say our Epicurean approach to things. Seniors want to be comfortable, they want to feel safe. We talked about it before, but guess what? They also want to have fun. Mm-hmm. So, I think we've managed to integrate that into our approach, and it's definitely something that people appreciate. But the one thing, and I'll end on this one, that's the most important as far as I'm concerned and most difficult to duplicate, is our customer experience. Over the years, I think we've built a solid brand, conveying messages to value seniors, to give them the place they deserve in society, and even to fight ageism. Mm-hmm. But our real strength lies in our capacity of delivering that promise every day, at every level, with every small or big interaction with every client.
I've walked the hallways of many, many Le Groupe Maurice properties, Rita, and you just don't talk the talk. It's walking the walk, absolutely. And
Thank you.
That could be gauged by many of the customer satisfaction surveys that are out there in the industry. Rita, if some of our listeners want to find out a little bit more about Le Groupe Maurice, where do they go?
Absolutely. I think the best way would be through our website, www.legroupeMaurice.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today, Rita.
My pleasure. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. That's Rita Kataroyan, Vice President, Strategy, Innovation and Marketing for Le Groupe Maurice.